to give you a little background. I'm not from your industry. I have been employed by Disney. I have been employed by Applied Minds. I have worked for Sonic Corporation in the past. My number one claim for fame is being a disruptor. I think differently, and my objective this afternoon is to poke you all with a stick and see if I can get you to think slightly differently about things. So, the industry I come from, telecommunications, has still not figured out that the most important bits are the emotional ones. You pick up a telephone, you can't tell whether it's your wife, your youngest son, or your daughter. They think that video conferencing that does this is okay. They don't understand that when you talk to somebody, you make eye contact, they can see your gaze, they can see your body language, and it's important cues. Communication is not voice alone, it's much more subtle. So when I go on visits and trips, and last week I was with my wife with iRobot. iRobot make the vacuum cleaners, but they also make military robots. There was what the Americans would call a huge holy shit factor in that we got our hands on some military robots. And it was just on a bit of a field. On other occasions, you go somewhere like this, and several things wow you: the building, the setting, the technology, the history, and all that perspective. And I go to things like this with my children, not anymore, but I've hauled them into lots of these places all over the planet. And I always come out learning something, even if it's, I don't want to go on that roller coaster ever again. But the customer expectation is changing really quickly. You are in competition with a whole lot of other channels who are screaming to get these guys' eyes and attention because, bluntly, there's money in it. And so dragging them off the screen and getting them into real experiences can be a little bit tough. So I'm going to tell you an insight now that you will not know about designing a roller coaster. So you go up on one of these babies, and you're going out into space, and you're getting a little bit anxious. But what the designers do, they put a big loudspeaker underneath your seat. And as you sit there in the downward position, they wobble your anal cavity a little bit with a 3 Hertz signal, which makes you very anxious, but you don't know they're doing that. And this is human engineering on a base level, and it has an incredible impact. But they could take you over there, tip you over the edge, all done. These guys will make you wait for half an hour for a 3-minute ride and make you think you've had good value for money. Okay, that's very clever. But it's all about getting people to react. This is unexcusable. What the heck are we doing? Going to an event, a place, standing in line to exchange a plastic card or a wad of notes to get a ticket to get in. It's insane. This is not the way to get people in. This is the Tesco and Sainsbury's situation. You may not be aware, but in the retail market, when you walk into Tesco, the first thing you do subliminally is look at the checkout line. If it's a long line, you will purchase 10 to 15% less because you will run around. If there's no line there, you will purchase 10 to 15% more because you will saunter. The objective is to get these guys right through the door into the attractions, and not just get them in, but steer them, guide them, and to make sure that they feel at the end of the day they got really good value for money. So here's simple, basic stuff. This is what all of us are trying to do. Whatever we're doing, we're trying to do it better. We're trying to make it simpler and cheaper, and we're doing it with less people and less resources, and it's a continual challenge. But here's some basic maxims. First of all, no technology should pose a threat to either the smallest of children or grandma. And the second one is, everything should be accessible right across the age range. And you wouldn't believe how difficult this is. You get a young child, they don't know what a dial is, and you get an old person and they can't hit the buttons because they're too small. And the people who design elevators never ride in elevators. Otherwise, they wouldn't put the buttons down here somewhere, so you have to get on your knees to read them. And they wouldn't use such color schemes like red on blue that you can't read. The same is true of travel luggage, by the way. It's obvious that the people who design travel luggage don't travel, otherwise they wouldn't design such god-awful luggage. We have to pay attention. So I'm going to give you some obvious, off-the-shelf stuff that you can just use right now, and then I'm going to give you some stuff that's not off the shelf, but it's here now. I'm not going to do any illusions. There's no smoke and mirrors here. I'm going to show you technology you can reach out and touch. Everything from here on in, you can reach out and touch. Social networks leads to social marketing, leads to social selling. And if you're going down the paper, radio, TV, you're paying, it's passive. If you can get your visitors to broadcast and sell you, it costs you nothing, it's far more effective. Top one is linear, this one is exponential. What do I mean by exponential? The internet is exponential in this way. If you took a checkerboard and put a grain of rice on the first square, 2 on the next, 4 on the next, 8 on the next, 16, by the time you get to the last square, there is not enough rice grown on this planet in 2 years to fill the last square. That's a real counterintuitive thing. I met David today. He's got this little demonstrator out here. I worked with him when he was in Silicon Graphics nearly 20 years ago. We were doing that kind of thing 20 years ago, but it was crap. And the reason is the computing power wasn't very good. In 20 years, the computing power has increased by 1,000,000-fold. 2 to the 10 is 1,000, 2 to the 20 is 1,000,000. It's counterintuitive. We're linear thinkers. But this is the power of social, the exponential. So what can you get? People are walking around with a mine of information you can tap, and here it is. My mobile almost knows more about me and my life than I do. Right now it knows I'm stood up, it knows exactly where I am, and it knows I'm walking, and it knows I've stopped. If I jump, it knows I've jumped. The accelerometer that tells you which way you're pointing it also allows me to see you pull up at a stoplight, go around a traffic island, get out your car and walk. Okay? But it's all this stuff of who am I, where have I been, what have I done, and better still, what of all my friends? And it works in the opposite direction. You can get people to tell you all this stuff by giving them a few loyalty points or something like this. Security and confidentiality are a big deal until you say, I'll give you some points, and then they'll tell you anything. So you give them some points to tell you anything. Once you've got that data, you can mine it, you can use it, then you can start to link the people and find out how they're related. Because what you want them to do is you want them to start selling. Now this is another bunch of kit. Most of these things are just people in a control room watching. But you can do much better than that. You can use the information from these cameras to anticipate situations, repair situations. You can learn about crowd activity, and you can optimize what you are delivering. So here's something that's very easy to do. If you get the cardinal points on a human face, they're unique. And so it's very easy to recognize people. Believe it or not, it's easy to recognize people in a crowd. So if you can recognize this person, and you can recognize the people that they're associating with, you start to get interesting knowledge about the group. And then, if you want to be secure and safe, and you've had a bit of trouble, you can start identifying the bad boys, bad girls, before they even get to first base. You can see them. It's easy to do. You can also find their associates, and you can start to associate behavioral activity with dress, facial features, and other things. Very, very simple. When you go to Heathrow Airport or to Dulles Airport, there is the theatre the absolute theatre of security, where you all wait in line, you take all your kit off, down to your socks and your trousers and stuff, and they check all your bags. That's the theatre. The security starts before you even leave home, and it continues as soon as you drive onto the site, and it continues as you're walking about on both sides of the gate. Okay? It's 100% there all of the time. You are much more secure than you might think. By the way, I have weird hobbies. One of my hobbies is to see what I can get through airport security. And I have to tell you, it can be quite alarming. You know, pliers, cutters, screwdrivers, spanners, no problem. I could dismantle an aircraft. But it's a sort of interesting hobby. Anyway, this is what we're up against. Finding a needle in a haystack, dead easy. You get a magnet, ka-ching, you've got it. What we're now trying to do, on a marketing side and on a security side, is find a needle on a needle stack. Metaphorically, you're looking for a bent needle in a pile of needles. That's hard. Or, worse still, you're looking for a needle that's thinking about bending. Okay, those are the kind of problems. And that is true on both sides of this coin, security and safety, and on marketing. Somebody in here is enjoying this experience, and they're thinking about telling all their friends. They're thinking about bringing their friends. What is it we have to do to tip them over that point and get a return visit with some extras? Well, it all lies inside big data and metadata. And these are kind of buzzwords, and people think it's all BS, but believe me, there's a lot of money in these bits. And I'll give you a clue. How many people do we have in here with a maths degree? Whoops, 2, excellent. So there's a magic thing called a hash function. You don't have to worry about it. Employ a PhD in maths. You won't do this within your own company. Employ a specialist company. But what you have got is a series of clues, and you can't sort them out. Let me give you a very graphic example. When you look at databases, you'll get in one occasion, NatWest Bank, Norwich, for a Mr. Smith. The same person may well be at National Westminster Bank, PLC, 12 Peel Street, and it's Dr. John Smith. And you can find if they're the same person by associating mathematical qualities to this string of digits, this string of letters. Basically, that's it. And it's a phenomenally powerful way of finding people. So this is used to track down benefit claimants who are making 15 claims from one address. And what happens is they put the same postal code on, or the same phone number, or the same street with a different name. Ka-ching! You can catch them very, very quickly. Zero on. It's very difficult. If I ask you what your date of birth is, it's very difficult for you to forge it, because as a species, we're habitual. It's very difficult for us to actually cover our tracks. So that's the kind of techniques that is used on that side of the house, but it's the sort of technique that you can use in your industry to find important things. So let's get away from the obvious and have a little fun with the not so obvious. This is one you can go out and buy. This is Leap technology. You wave your arms about, look like an idiot, but you control the screen. This is great for public interfaces. You don't finish it with screens that are covered in finger marks, and people in a wheelchair who can't reach can do it, and it does the job. Here's another one that is not commercial, and you'll have to imagine here the granularity being changed, but the military are now using this technology to take maps and make them three-dimensional so that you can get the full terrain visibility. And all it is a bunch of pins that are wound up and down, and you put the map over the top, and it gives you control. So you can do all kinds of things that are very simple with this, that are extremely intuitive. I'm an engineer, scientist by profession. I always feel that an instruction book is an admission of bad design. As an engineer, I'd sooner break something than read the instruction book. If I can't get the lid off, I get a screwdriver and a pair of pliers and rip it off and then find out how I should have got it off. There's so much bad design out there, and yet it does not take an awful lot of effort. Now here's something that you can do for a pop concert, But the telcos are not doing it. I don't know whether you guys are or not. But it's just so easy to do. Here, ready. In a reasonable world, that would be me. I wouldn't have had to go to 5 o'clock in the morning. I would have been teleported here, arrived as a hologram, done my stuff, and disappeared as a block of dust gone. That sort of thing's been able to be done for a long while. It's now become a commercial proposition. Costs you an arm and a leg, but it's sort of interesting. This is actually Gatwick Airport. A lot of people do not model crowd flows. I'll give you an example of how important this was. About 15 years ago, I got involved with a small company modeling the Hajj in Mecca. About 50 people a year were trampled to death at the Hajj. By changing a couple of pillars and doorways, no one was killed. You may not be aware, but the fire regulations are derived by killing people. You put up a building, it's full of people, you have a fire, people get burnt, and you say, well, we should make the corridors a bit wider. And the same is true of aircraft. But in actual fact, with this kind of technology, you can do dry runs on designs and say, if we make that corridor 50 centimeters wider, all the people get out, as opposed to 2 people choking to death and being asphyxiated. But for you, it means you can get people around your attraction to maximize their enjoyment and use. I thought I'd slip in here a bit of materials technology. You're creative people, see if you can think of what to do with it. But what's coming along is shape-shifting materials on various scales. So the aircraft industry would like continually variable wings. You may not be aware, but a shark, the reason it can swim so fast is it's got very, very small retractable hooks in its skin to break up the eddy currents. And you want to do the same thing on aircraft to break up the eddies, and then you can fly at any altitude, at any speed, much more efficiently. So people are playing with all kinds of assemblies, making sculptures, and they come from the mega to the very small. So let's just show you another, oops, sorry, I'm too eager here. Let me just go back. So this is on an increasingly small scale, and this is the closest I am going to be to a fiction. This is being done jointly with Carnegie Mellon and Intel. They're putting quite a lot of money into it, but it is material that you can manipulate with your hands, and you can program the color. So imagine what you can do with stuff like this. If I could give you a plastic, and I can, that you can program the color of, if I could give you a plastic that I can change the shape of, which also exists, and if I could give you a plastic that was also a battery, and I combined all three, imagine what that would do to the vehicle industry, so that your car shell was a battery. You took it out in the morning and you fancied a green car, you flip it to the green color, red in the evening, whatever you want to do. Go to Tesco, somebody reverses into you, you drive off, and on the journey home, it reshapes itself and repairs. So people like BMW are working on that. It's not a science project, it's an engineering project to try to get these three properties to go together. So we now have the printing of complex objects like this. They don't need assembly, they come out the printer and they're good to go. We have the programming of biological material and printing of biological material. This is the first human lung that's functional. And then we have autonomous units, and these are robots with lights on. And you set them off and they go and do their own mission. There's no central control. They cooperate in the same way any swarm would, and you can get them to do all kinds of things. All sort of interesting stuff, all very capable of being deployed. I'll just switch the sound off for a moment. If you're wondering how the heck this has happened, it's ever so simple. It's cracking. These are just small balls, and they're on very thin nylon fibers up into those holes, and in there are little winches that just wind them up and down. That's it. So you can make this as small or as large as you like, and so you can make living sculptures, which are kind of pretty. And you hang some music on it, and it just becomes a bit mesmeristic. You just get a lot from it. So let's just have a quick look at the dream. I hear all kinds of stupid things say about robots. You know, they're going to be in the home within 5 years and you're going to be doing the washing, they'll be ironing men's shirts. I don't think so. There's a long way to go. This is the dream. Anybody in the robotics industry has a more sanguine view. They're good for a lot of things. They make everything that you are wearing. They make every electronic device. For example, the chips that are in all your devices that you're now using are designed by machine. They're assembled by robots, and we use human beings to clip the cases together. The only time we employ human beings to do anything is when they are cheaper than a robot. And right now, human beings cost in across a broad front. But gradually, these boys are moving in. But the humanoid form is one that people go for. And I'm going to show you one where we have deliberately ignored the laws of robotics. We've not only ignored them, we have given these boys guns and programmed to go and find people and kill them. The worst thing I've seen, if something the size of a lawnmower, it's in a backpack. It's actually a landmine on wheels. The American trooper comes along, pulls out this flymo, throws it through a window, it trundles around the building, goes upstairs, finds a warm human being, cuddles up, and then explodes. So in Afghanistan, they didn't send troops down there. Well, they did it first, but then it was, they were putting $500,000 missiles down the caves. Eventually they just sent these flymos down because they only cost about $5 grand and blow up. So this one is interesting because it's not, it's anthropomorphic, but not in our form, but in a horse form. And it's got Google pumping money into it. Hurrah! There will be a lot of progress. Why would you want to do this? They are expecting the American troopers to carry a 150-pound payload. A human being cannot carry 150 pounds, but this baby can carry well over a quarter of a ton. The engine car that gives it away at the moment. But this is fun because it sort of falls over in a second. Boink, okay, but just watch what happens. It recovers. Brilliant. But how about some stuff that is human friendly?
I thought it was amazing. I've never seen anything like that.
Going up and down the steps was very cool. Because that would I think would be really hard, especially going back down the steps. That was cool.
See it this close and how fluid it is.
Okay, so the things that we find easy to do, robots find really tough. But what is interesting is how we react. Look at this little guy. In every experiment done, little guys relate to robots like they relate to other children and animals and any other life form. It is only us as adults, because we've seen Terminator go, oh God, with the uncanny valley. But it's sort of interesting, they're problem solving, mechanical problem solving. This one is designed by a computer. It's a lunar walker. NASA are trying to make it. No man was involved in designing that. This is a $200 robot, a manned vehicle, flying over a square in Turkey when they had a bit of an incident with the police. After a while, the police start shooting at it, which is kind of worrying. So I'm now going to delve into something that's really great fun. I work a lot in this field, artificial intelligence. And let me frame it this way. In 1997, you probably remember that Gary Kasparov was wiped out by Deep Blue. What you may not know is that the decoding of the human genome was done by Blue Gene, again IBM, and now we have been wiped out at general knowledge. I mean big time. There is no point, my laptop can now beat Gary Kasparov at chess. All right? But just 14 years later, we have got a new machine that's doing stunning stuff. But this is to set the scene.
Want to explain why you're hiding at the crime scene?
I was frightened.
Robots don't feel fear. They don't feel anything. They don't get hungry. They don't sleep.
I do. I have even had dreams.
Human beings have dreams. Even dogs have dreams, but not you. You are just a machine. An imitation of life. Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece?
Can you?
That's actually the key question. Can you? Turns out that robots are not very good in the general sense until recently, but they're brilliant at specific tasks. There are a lot of human beings like that. I refuse to have discussions about intelligence. We don't even have a description. We can't write down what intelligence is. There's just one mathematical equation that describes it, but there is no description or understanding. So let's just have a look now at this. This is a game show. In 2011, IBM Watson took on the world champions. This is American world champions. You know, when we have a world championship, we invite other nations, right? So these are the world champions, and Ken Jennings is just a walking encyclopedia. And in 2011, they were wiped out by Watson. This is now 2013. So just listen to this. It's general knowledge. It's a quiz game. You make money. This machine is dead smart. It starts gambling. There are 3 bars come across the bottom, and it may come up with 3 possible answers, and then it computes a confidence level, and it won't say it's got the answer right until it's 97% sure, like a human being would, subconsciously. So here goes.
Welcome back. Then you've got your ceremony device ready. I see. Here are the categories for you to select from in Double Jeopardy. First off, Etude Brute. Next, Hedgehog Podge. Don't worry about it. The Art of the Steal. Cambridge, and finally, Church and State, with each of those words in quotation marks. Start us off.
Let's try Don't Worry About It all the way down to 2,000 minutes.
It's just acne. You don't have this skin infection, also known as Hansen's disease. Watson.
What is leprosy?
You are right.
Attribute for 1600.
Music fans wax rhapsodic about this Hungarian's transcendental etudes. Watson.
Who is Franz Liszt?
You are right.
Don't worry about it for 1600.
You're just a little stiff. You don't have this painful mosquito-borne joint illness with a Swahili name. Watson?
What is dengue fever?
Dengue fever, correct.
Attribute for 1200.
Paganini's 24 Capricci set the standard for etudes for this instrument. Watson?
What is violin?
Good.
2000, same category.
From 1911 to 1917, this romantic Russian composed Etude Tableau for piano. Watson?
Who is Rachmaninoff?
Human beings don't stand a chance. Okay, it just carries on like that. Eventually, Ken Jennings gets in once. And that's it. And then the machine starts having fun. It's kind of interesting. So let's have a look what this is now doing to the medical industry, because The reason I like working in America is they picked up this technology once they'd seen it on TV and shoved it straight into the medical profession, and guess what? It is hugely better at diagnosing human illness than any human being. Let me give you a reassuring thought. You go in to see your doctor in the morning, you sit in front of him or her in their office, they graduated yesterday, they're brand new and shiny. 50% of everything they were taught and have learned and understand is wrong, because the half-life of information in their industry is dissipating what they know that quickly. Watson doesn't suffer from that, so just watch what the medics say about this.
In Jeopardy, built into the game is this notion of confidence, that it's not worth answering unless you're sure. And in the real world, there are lots of problems like that. You don't want your doctor to guess. You want him to have confidence in his answer before he decides to give you a treatment.
You're never going to replace a trained doctor or nurse, but certainly a system like Watson could be a physician assistant. It could help to check on things. Did you consider this? Did you consider that?
The management of diseases is phenomenally complicated for any given, especially chronic disease. There are all sorts of nuances. It's not one size fits all.
Suppose a 45-year-old guy walks in with chest pains. How are you going to decide how best to treat him?
Okay, I'm going to give you one now that you could apply immediately. This is one for your industry. It's one where you fall over all the time.
The first level of applications of Watson in the marketplace will be around call centers.
It actually changed the business models of how call centers are set up.
Now, call centers are a very large cost for industries where they get literally millions and millions of phone calls. Sometimes you'll get very frustrated because they have to wait minutes and sometimes hours to get an answer.
The goal would be to increase service quality and be able to provide answers quickly.
It's enabling humans to get at the gold mine, the potential gold mine of all this data.
Okay, so let me tell you what's going to happen. For a lot of us in science and engineering and technology, this is the greatest screwdriver we've ever had. For a lot of professions, like the medical profession, it's going to be an absolute boon. However, the investment bankers are going to be out on the street. Who are you going to trust? An investment banker who's got their eye on a new swimming pool, or Watson, who's up to date and is really smart and does a better job of investing your money? Okay, so it's going to tear into some industries, but in others, it will turn them around. It will give them a leg up. And in your industry, I think it's got a big part to play.
He's awesome. Yeah.
That's what you want. When they've been to your place, you want evangelists. You want youngsters and older people saying, this was brilliant. And they go out on their mobile phone, and before they even leave your site, they're texting all of their friends saying, you got to come here. This is brilliant. This is what I saw. This is what I did. If you go onto my homepage, cochrane.org.uk, and go to slide sets and click through, it'll take you to SlideShare. This slide set is available. To give you an idea of scale, this presentation is 2.5 gigabytes. The download you can get is 16 megabytes, and it's a PDF. Use it as you wish. That's the direct URL at the top. It's a bit longer. But if you go on to slideshare.net and search me, you'll find 47 slide sets. On my homepage, there are 1,200 written articles and papers going from blogs to scientific and engineering papers. There are lots of movies and all kinds of stuff. Help yourself. Use it as you wish. When I was a research student, my professor said to me, Mr. Cochrane, if you go out there and steal one man's results, that's plagiarism. If you steal 10 men's results, that's research. Do plenty of research. Thank you.